Hi, I'm Andy Acton.
And I'm Chris Strevens.
This is Dentology, the Business of Dentistry podcast.
Well, that was good.
Really pleasant young guy.
A nice, 29 years old?
Yeah.
Lots of ambition, some really good ideas for
Yes.
anyone listening. You really should listen to it because very thoughtful, very precise. I thought it was really considered, lovely.
And a lot of the things that he was talking about, when you kind of join the dots in themselves, you go, well, yeah, that's pretty obvious. But then you put it with something else, which is pretty obvious. And with something else, you go, actually, that's quite a slick process.
Yeah, definitely.
And what I love as well is Aly talked a lot about, systems and processes. And then we moved into a different dimension when we started talking about neuroscience and behaviour and people and bringing those together.
Yeah, linking them all. It's smart.
Actually, it's a very nice approach.
And I love the way that they, some of the training things they were talking about, the way that they make learning easy, which actually everybody could learn how to do that. It is truly not rocket science, but they've sort of thought about how to do it.
No.
I thought it was really good.
An interesting piece towards the end. Quite often people say, never meet your heroes.
It'd
be interesting for people to listen to what Aly said when he met his hero. But that's for the full episode.
Yeah.
People can grab that as they
You
go.
have to listen. That was a teaser.
Exactly right. It was good. So, podcast recording 140 something.
140 something, yeah. It's funny, I was thinking about that when you were I was thinking, I wonder what number this is going to be.
Yeah. They don't roll into one another, but because we enjoy it so much, we've never really counted the numbers, have we?
No, that's true. Very
because every time you have an interesting conversation, it just stands alone as an interesting conversation. And I don't think we're chasing a number either.
No. What I find about it interesting is the fact of there are so many times when I say, do you remember we had that person on who told us about so-and-so?
Yeah.
And it's like the stories that we learn and our listeners learn, I think are fascinating because you wouldn't know those unless you listened or spoke to the people and had a conversation, which leads us nicely onto
our guest for today. And our guest for today, we are very fortunate. We have Aly Tejani joining us. And Aly is the Acquisitions and Operations Director at A&U Dental. Welcome, Aly. How are you doing?
Yeah, hello.
Good. Thanks, Andy and Chris, for having me on. I've been excited to come on your show for a while. So glad to take this opportunity and have some fun and laughter today as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Honoured. Someone excited.
Yeah, no, and it is. It's a great opportunity for all of us. One, we can find out more about you. Two, you can tell the world what you're up to. And quite often we talk about dentistry as being an ecosystem, and it's really important that everybody in that ecosystem does well. So whether you're an equipment supplier or a manufacturer or a dental practice group like yourselves or business service providers like us or a dentist or a therapist or a nurse, everybody has to do well because any part of that isn't doing well, it will fracture that whole ecosystem. So for us, supporting you and everybody else is vital because so much of the world these days hangs around finance and making sure that the whole profession and industry sitting around dentistry stays strong so that it becomes attractive to the finance industry and the finance providers is important as well. So for us, it's a great thing to do. It's a great thing to do. So
great.
We'll get onto A&U Dental shortly and your family dental business. But before we get to that, can you just tell us about your childhood, your upbringing?
About young Aly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what was young Aly all about?
Yeah, so it's probably 29 years worth of stories there.
Excellent, good, like that. That's very good. It's always a good stuff
for the whole day. But yeah, I was born in Leicester. I was born into a family that fled Uganda in the 1970s. So
Idi Amin, it's a common story, sadly.
Correct.
Yeah,
Idi Amin. My grandfather lost his coffee factory. My dad was already in the UK, so they came to the UK with, next to none in their pockets, and I think they always had that entrepreneurial spirit from Uganda, and I think this time they had sort of nothing to lose because they were setting up from scratch. So I've been born in sort of a business orientated family, and I think most sort of our conversation around the family table were around business. I remember.
But also I do think, Aly, I wonder whether if you've been in a situation where you've built a business, you've had a business, and then you've had it stripped away from you because of kind of political reasons, and you've needed to fled that country. I would have thought your strength and your resolve, and also that inner knowing that I've done it before, so I can do it again.
Confidence.
It really must drive you on, and to have had something, to have lost it, is quite often more painful than not having had it in the first place. I'd have thought the drive to get back to where they were was enormous.
Yeah, I think it was that drive that came from my father and my uncles. You have to remember that there were 7 in a family, 7 boys all banding together, trying to, of course, set up a company, which was a paper factory that then span across 5 European countries. So it was a unity, it was that desire to get back to where they were in Uganda, but also that higher purpose of contributing to society.
So what did you do growing up? I mean, obviously you talked about business, but you were school and sports and stuff like that. What did you do and hang out with?
Yeah, I went to Loughborough Grammar School. I was on the football team. I used to play table tennis for my county. So I was very sporty as a kid, very academic, but also at that age I was very entrepreneurial. I remember doing a school fete with my cousin where we set up a stand called Desi Corner. And we were selling a lot of Indian food, and I think that always did well with the teachers.
Desi Corner.
Coming back for more papadams. You know how it is with the Indian food.
That's great though, isn't it?
So I was always energetic, active. I was in the same year as my cousin as well. So we really enjoyed school. And
safety in numbers, really.
Yeah. I have 20 first cousins, so that's
oh my goodness!
Wow, so
that is a
family.
Big party time.
So we all live.
Are you married?
A minute.
Are you married, Ali?
No, not yet.
No, I must say, I bet the family weddings are like bonkers.
Oh yeah, Indian weddings. You can probably get 1,000 plus guests in there.
Most of them are probably your family by the sounds of it.
It's true. But I
that's
think
before you even get past the Tejanis.
I think
so. I was going to say, so your father grew what became a very significant paper manufacturing business, and then he exited that business in 2010.
Correct.
And then sort of turned his attention to dentistry. That's a real kind of pivot, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
what went on in that time?
I think it's about succession planning and the next generation. How are you going to bring them up, and sort of what vehicles are you going to put them in to sort of grow the family balance sheet, whether that's financial or the human capital of the family, because there's different types of capital. Financial is one aspect, but one thing that's very important to us as a family is human capital and cultural capital. So I think we had a non-compete clause that expired in 3 years after we sold that to an Italian company. So my dad re-entered the tissue industry with my older brother, and then running parallel to this, my sister is a dentist. So he thought, why not pick another recession-proof business and
try something else.
And try something else. And they're both very different businesses. One's very macro, one's very micro. One has higher margins, one has lower margins. It has its nuances, but the principles of business and working with people to deliver results is the same across any discipline.
Right, yeah. And I think you're right. True, I think sometimes we do have a tendency to overcomplicate things, and we get very much down in the detail and the weeds of what's going on. But you're right, when you kind of step back, the core principles of business get applied to whichever sector.
The same, aren't they? Really? News agents,
paper business, news agents, butchers, dentistry. The same principles do apply. And did you always have ambition to get into dentistry? Because you studied economics at Warwick.
Yeah, that's correct.
And was a plan for you always to move into the dental business, or was that something that
you're going to do something else?
You kind of learned about it, and it sort of turned your head.
I think the nature of the circumstances led to it. I was always going to do something in family business, but my initial plan was to get some experience outside. I was lining up a job with Google after university. My mum unfortunately died of cancer during that year. So we had to battle that. And then at the same time, we had 2 clinics, one in Wigan, one in Stockport. And my older sister went on to maternity leave. So I was sort of roped into the business. I was going to the practice, doing the basics and understanding the business. Yeah. And that was sort of an opening and an avenue.
That was your introduction to it.
Yeah, correct.
Which is
it's good. It's a good intro, though, isn't it? Really. So, what was that bloke used to do? The going back to the shop floor. What was his name?
Oh, so John Harvey Jones.
Yeah. Most of our listeners will not have a clue who he is. But anyway, but he used to go back. He used to basically go onto businesses and sort of like go on the shop floor, so as he could then tell the management actually how far they were away from the actual business. So I think it's a great one that you went in and rolled your sleeves up, really, by the sounds of things.
Yeah, and I learned that from my father. He was always on the factory floor. He would walk around the factory floor during, after his meetings. He would speak to the people on the production line. But I think presence is important, but also showing that you're a leader and you're on the front line as well with your team.
Yeah. Definitely.
And then you joined the business in 2016?
That's correct, 2016.
Yeah, but then it sounds like a significant moment for you was COVID. So whilst you've been in the business perhaps for 4 years, you seized the opportunity to grow the business when COVID hit. What was your thought process and how did you go about that? How did that kind of manifest
You were young,
itself?
weren't you, in 2016? I'm just working that backwards because you're
29
now.
I was probably 21.
Flip,
yeah.
Straight out of uni, straight
Hello,
out of uni.
everybody.
It was very green.
Flip.
So I think during the pandemic, it was quite a period with sort of that AAA scenario, and practices were closed. We had a bit more strategic mindset. We had already grown our 3 practices. We had bought 1 practice before the pandemic in January of that year. So we had the senior management team in place, and our ambition was already to grow. I think the pandemic just gave us that boost that we've got more time. We, need to grow really now. And we had already grown the business organically. We had done a lot of refurb projects because acquisitions is not the only thing that's important for us. It's organic growth. So we always combined the two, and we felt, we were reaching that ceiling on the organic growth. We had understood the business quite well. So let's double the size of the group and get some momentum.
And that plan was built during COVID. You saw the opportunity to do that through that window.
Yeah, that's correct. I think there was a lot of time in COVID. I think that was probably
but quite
thinking time.
I was going to say, but quite visionary as well, because lots of people either kind of just pulled down the shutters or went into panic mode because they didn't really
thought
know.
they'd never reopen.
They didn't they couldn't see what the other side would look like. So at this time, you were a young guy. Yeah, to have that vision to say, look, this is our time to push forward. We can actually kind of gain some ground here while everybody else is doing that. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think you got to take the leap. Sometimes you want to see the net, but the net starts to form when we eventually take that leap. And I think that was the time where I thought, let's go and let's grow the company. And continue the progress.
And in terms of building that, we talk to lots of people, and there's lots of people out there who have a few sites and they're looking to grow. And one of the areas that they tend to suffer with most is systems. And by that, what I mean is they don't always necessarily have the foundations in place to build a group onto. So if you think about a property, if you've got foundations for a 2 or 3 story property, that's it. So if you put on 3 or 4 more stories, it's not got the foundations. It's going to come crumbling down. Did you put in place the foundations and the systems and the processes early on, knowing that you were going to be building a larger group?
Yeah, I think being a master of scale is very important, especially in dentistry when you're running multiple sites and you got different practice managers. You really need to get your systems in place. And for me, systems is just an acronym for save yourself stress, time, effort, and money. So that's how I view it.
That's quite clever. I like that.
One of our sort of main strategies is people and systems. The reason why we have people and systems is because you need systems. I mean, systems run the business and people run the systems. So we have all our systems in a software called Trainual. You can see when practice managers have completed certain systems that are being released. It notifies when there's been changes to systems. We record a lot of videos. So we share our screen. We record even training and coaching sessions where prospective practice managers can watch it. So we're very much about getting the content, and it has worked. I mean, we've interviewed practice managers, but our system is very slick from sort of interview stage to, second interview to offer letter. We all work through sort of hyperlinks that's listed in sort of our software. So anyone can do it, and that's how it should be.
That's great to have that hands-on stuff, because as you grow, it's really good to have that embedded, because otherwise the risk, isn't it, as you get bigger, and that will be your risk, is those things get sort of forgotten or sidelined. We used to work for big organisations. There was lots of things that people should have done. But as the business got bigger, people just didn't do it. But I think also the benefit is technology. I think now you've got that real-time reporting, haven't you?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So you're now in a position, you've got 7 practices, 6
That's
in Northwest and 1 in Milton Keynes?
Yeah, correct.
So this kind of process and automation that you've kind of designed, does that enable you to have kind of a dashboard view of your group, which in theory gives you the ability to effectively buy or acquire practices anywhere? Or are you still kind of focused in particular regions?
I think for us, the dashboard's mainly for sort of practice performance and driving organic growth. So for us, we have a dashboard that a practice manager has a dashboard, a senior manager has a dashboard, a director has a dashboard. Certain reports are auto-generated and sent to emails of certain stakeholders. So we connect APIs from Google, from LinkedIn, from Dentally, our practice management software, even feedback forms. So we can see live feedback from the practices. Certain metrics are important to us, like income per minute per practitioner, income per minute by treatment, how our private's doing, how our NHS is doing. It's all coming from multiple data sources, and we've used a lot of developers to develop this.
I can imagine.
That sounds super sophisticated. Big data. I mean, income per minute, man.
Yeah. What's the mix that you've got across your group between NHS and private?
Yes, I think we've, of course, grown our private because we've added surgeries, we've spent money on marketing, we start to really tap into premium time dentistry. So now we're about 60% NHS, 40% private. But we've acquired a lot of practices that were 96% NHS, 4% private. We've increased the surgery occupancy. We've offered the implant services, the Invisalign, the composite bonding, which previously wasn't being offered by the vendor. So we look at practices and we see, is there space to add more surgeries here? Is there space to add more services? Because, you can look at the multiples, but one way to sort of increase sort of the value of your business is through building EBITDA and that operational growth, which is very important.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we often say to our clients in one of our other lives, we value and sell dental practices, as you know, and quite often when people buy a practice, we say to them that the value for dental practice is very high. Therefore, if you want to add value to the practice, you probably need to do something different with that practice. The market will not necessarily take it up and up and up. So what you've said is absolutely spot on. You can either introduce additional services to use chair occupancy capacity that you've got where surgeries aren't optimized, or you can add in more surgeries if there's space for that. So that's where you really add value to that business. If the market moves in your direction, then that's a bonus. But I think that just waiting for the market to move in your direction is a risky game, because it may not.
And I think systems and processes in the future will probably be an important part of value.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? I think there'll be a point where people, if you haven't got this and haven't got that, I mean, we sort of see it. I don't think there's really many, but there was a period of time, wasn't there, where people didn't have any computer software.
No.
And it was like, whoa.
I think weirdly, CQC coming into dentistry actually made quite a lot of the bottom end practices back up their ideas. because the good practices already had systems and protocols and documents, but some didn't. And I think CQC coming in did mean that some of those practices had to get a bit better at how they recorded some of that information. This week's episode is brought to you in partnership with Ultimate Dental Business. We know as guys who have supported dentists for over 25 years and through hosting this podcast that building business skills in dentistry is vital. Time and again, we hear from dentists who tell us that they find the business side of dentistry the most challenging. And we know that stress and pressure comes from doing things we don't feel well equipped to do. That is why we are delighted to be part of Ultimate Dental Business, the new dental business hub delivering top-tier business training for dentists. Founded by Dr. Brad Thornton and Dr. Krupal Shah, Ultimate Dental Business is a response to the lack of robust dental business education currently available. Through our effective collective discussions with dentists, it was clear they most needed good structure and effective guidance to give them the knowledge and tools to be successful dental business owners and to create a business that serves them rather than the business that takes all their time and energy to keep going. To find out more about developing your own business education, click on the link in the show notes or go to ultimatedentalbusiness.com.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think even if you're not exiting a business, you'd always run a business as if you're going to exit it.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
You have your systems, you can hand the keys to the incoming vendor. I mean, we've bought so many practices where people flying, everywhere. You don't know where it is. You can't find it, and you're thinking, how?
Well, it must be good for you as acquisitions that when you go somewhere and you've got something that's you can actually see what people are doing. It must make you feel confident in buying and also in the value that you offer, mustn't it?
Yeah. And of course, we do feel confident whenever we're going to acquire, but I think you can learn from everyone. I think we've been to a lot of acquisition viewings and we thought, oh, that's a great idea. We never thought of that. So I think it's about sharing knowledge and understanding your limitations as well, and being open to knowing that you may have some good ideas, but there's also other people in the industry that have great ideas too.
Yeah, sure.
And recycle them. I think I'm not too sure there's ever a brand new idea apart from people like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. But even Elon Musk, that was just a reinvention of crappy electric cars.
Yeah, even nicked the name Tesla.
That's true. Yeah. But it is, as you say. I think it's a foolish person who doesn't think they can learn from anyone else.
No, exactly. And also, I don't think we should be shy in sharing our ideas as well, because the thing that makes our businesses good isn't one amazing thing. It's 100 small things. So if somebody takes one little thing that you do, okay, there's going to be a marginal gain of some sort, but it doesn't mean they suddenly end up with an amazing business as a result of that.
I was reading a book and it talked about being like a chef. If you think about it, Gordon Ramsay, Jamie Oliver, they all have their recipe books. You can find them from Amazon. It doesn't mean you're going to be Gordon Ramsay or Jamie Oliver.
No, that's true. That's true, yeah.
So I think it's about being open, and I think we should encourage that more, in dentistry, so we can learn best practice from one another. And, I've got calls with some dental groups on how, they can use sort of CRM systems, APIs, and we're happy to support. And I think it's about strategic partnerships rather than hiding information.
That is great.
But it's a give
absolutely.
Give and take relationship, right? You've got to bring something to the table.
Has the dental profession been as you expected?
I was going to ask, has it surprised you?
Has it surprised you in any way? Because none of us are clinicians at all. Yeah, we're on the business side of things. Is it as you thought?
I think there have been some sort of shocks, but I think my parents wanted to push me into dentistry, but I didn't want to go into dentistry because I was interested in economics. I was interested in the world of commerce, but I had a deep interest in sort of chemistry, biology, neuroscience. So I came in sort of the industry with an interest in science, but it has sort of opened my eyes to a different world. It's a different sort of industry to manufacturing. How you address your audience is very different. It's B2C, B2P, which is say business to patient. Manufacturing was B2B. You're dealing with dentists as well. which are highly academic. And I think there's a lot, you can learn from them, but there's also a lot we can bring to the industry. And I think one thing that is sort of quite telling is the communication. I think communication with the patient is very important. And I think realizing that there's this concept called information asymmetry. So dentists have done 5 years of academia. Patients may not necessarily understand the dental lingo. Yeah. So nobody wants to really know what osseointegration is. They want a layman term of what that is. And I always believe that, a picture paints 1,000 words. So what's a video? What's a prop? So I think what we're trying to do in our sort of group of practices is develop that communication skills, bring in props. Because if you think about it, you go to a car showroom, you can see the cars, you can, see how big the boot space is. You can jump in the front seat, put your hands on the wheel, test the sort of digital tech out. So in dentistry, if something's going into your mouth and sort of lab work, then surely we should be showing that to our patients and helping them understand sort of the treatment so they can make decisions that maximize their patient welfare.
It's fascinating when you think about it. What you were saying earlier, it just reminded me so Frank Taylor, who is the guy we bought the business from 24 years ago, one of the things he used to do is he got a set of basically crowns and bridges made. And he used to train his dentist that he did, and he said, you basically need to show people what these things are, so as that they could hold them and feel them. He said, and it's fascinating because you're saying the same thing, but so many people don't. It's a real interesting one, isn't it? Your relation to the car thing. As you say, you can go and sit in it. You can choose what color you want. What leather do you want? What color do you want the inside? Oh, here we go. Let's show it to you. And then someone's saying you're going to spend £600 a crown. What is it? That's a great thing. It's white.
Yeah. But also, I think that point about information asymmetry is spot on. And I think when you're dealing with people who are highly academic and they're technicians, they use language which to them is just so common. It's not jargon. Yet, from a patient point of view, they get lost. And because of deference in many cases, people don't ask the question. And that's where I think kind of TCOs and receptionists and people like that can help, because they almost become translators, and they kind of explain to the patient what actually went on in the surgery, because the patient doesn't really want to ask. But if you could get that to actually happen in the first instance with a clinician, that's a massive thing.
And I think, most of communication is non-verbal cues. So these are the things that you need to spark from the waiting room. Is a patient anxious? Are they looking at their watch? Are they tapping their foot? When they come into the surgery, are you going to shake their hand? If a parent's coming with a kid, if you high-five the kid, you're not just building rapport with that kid, you're building the rapport with the patient. How far are you from the patient? Are you an arm's length? Are you standing up, tall above a patient, which is intimidating, or are you eye level? But these are very sort of basic things which aren't taught in dentistry, and that's sort of what I'm trying to do with our team is, work with the dentists and understand that. And communication.
Do you find resistance sometimes from some of the practices you take over, where people say, well,
naturally you'll find resistance, but for me, I think numbers don't lie, people do. So if you have statistics, you have case studies, and generally when you have an idea, you're going to go to the most open of your associates, open of your team, and sort of get this sort of conversation in the corridors happening that, this has been done with me, this is what's happened. So it's a work in progress. You've got to win the hearts and minds of people. That doesn't happen overnight. But if you have a track record, then it becomes a lot easier.
I suppose you get an internal ambassador, don't you?
But what I love is that you were talking about how you enjoy neuroscience, but I also love the fact that you're taking that and turning it into a practical application for how you're getting your team to communicate with patients and how to get them on board and how to build rapport and how to do it in different ways. But it's backed by kind of your interest in science, and that's kind of smart. It's, like I say, it's based on evidence and data as opposed to just we think it's a good idea.
And I think one thing that's sort of lacking in sort of our industry is in organizations, there can be addition, you can get more resources, or you can multiply the resources that you already have. And economics and business is about resource allocation. From what I've seen in the industry over the last 6 years is that we're not using our nurses more, and they should be supporting the dentist, chair side. And you have to align the interests of the dentist and the nurse. And I think training the nurses to reach their potential and to support the dentist to a greater level will only lead to a greater experience for the patient.
And also fulfilling for the nurse as well.
Yeah, definitely.
If they've got capabilities beyond what's expected of them at the moment, that's a very stimulating environment to work in. When
they're not just a suction person holder.
What's the most fulfilling part of what you do, Ali? Because obviously you find practices, you go through the process of buying practices, you like data, you like processes, you're obviously interested in how to develop people. If we had to strip away all those things and you were left with one thing, what's the thing that really gets you up in the morning?
I think for me, I don't wake up in the morning think I'm managing people. I wake up in the morning think I'm managing purpose. For me, after my mum died, we set up her foundation. So our foundation is closely linked to A&U Dental. So the better A&U Dental does, the better we can deliver on sort of helping support education in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and those countries. So when I go into work, I'm going, of course, with a purpose to learn from one another, help people achieve their goals and ambitions, deliver a great service to our patients. But also that higher level goal is to do something better than, just run a business.
That's nice.
That's good.
That's nice. And what I love about that is that never goes away. That's something within you. So if in the future you decide to have other businesses that are either within or outside of dentistry, that purpose is something that kind of sticks with you and your family.
What's the guys we spoke to today and about their outreach for
we spoke to some guys in another episode, and they have a group of paediatric practices, but the most fulfilling thing they do is they, as Chris said, they have this outreach program where basically they have this coach, this RV in America that's kitted out with surgeries, and they trot around different schools in Texas. And for them, that's the thing that is special. That's special to them. And they said that if they didn't have the businesses they had, they wouldn't be able to do this. So similar to you, that was the thing that kind of they sort of bounced out of bed in the morning.
And I think it motivates you more, because when it's proven scientifically and statistically that when you contribute to society, you tend to do better in sort of your businesses and your personal lives, because you want to be more successful so you can help more people and have that domino effect.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, the community thing.
You're still young, Ali. I mean, you got decades ahead of you in terms of work. But what would you say so far? What's the thing that you're taking as the biggest learning from your entrepreneurial journey so far?
I think one thing is probably patience. And having the ability.
You've got a lack of it.
Yeah.
No. I think I've learned.
And we don't mean the ones with tea.
I think more from sort of the business side. I think I've generally been a patient person, but in business, I always want to get things done quickly. But I think a lot of my team say, Ali, you're rolling too many things out. You need to be a bit more patient. So I think I've taken that on board and realized, Rome wasn't built in a day. So it takes time, and just be patient and keep your head down, and things will start to move in the right direction.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? But the flip side to that is we used to work with a very wise guy who said to us years ago, if you feel in control, you're not driving fast enough. And it was an analogy from, I think it was the Formula One driver, Mario Andretti. And that's what he said. He said, if you feel in control, you're not driving fast enough. And his view was that you should always be pushing boundaries and you should be at the limit. And that's where you kind of get those gains.
But they also have pit stops.
Yes.
So maybe that's the way. Every once in a while, we need an emotional pit stop to be able to like chill out a bit.
Yeah.
I agree. I think speed is very important, but when you have a lot of fast-moving ideas, you also got to look at your error rate. So you got to balance your speed and your error rate. And if your speed is generating a high error rate, you need to reduce your speed so you can minimize that error rate.
Oh, there's a risk. You don't want more pilots than the RAF. You don't want to be trying hundreds of things all at once, because it's hard to keep track of them. And I think from a team point of view, whilst you may have a very clear idea strategically why these things matter and what they mean, when a team are delivering a set of services, it just looks like chaos.
I
and
agree.
you don't want that to then impact on the patient experience.
You have to get buy-in as well, don't you, from people, so they actually follow you on your journey. Otherwise, you do look a bit like an idiot.
That is true.
Yeah. Ali, we always finish up our interviews in the same way. We have two questions for you.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, there's something that kind of almost is linked to one of our questions. So we'll ask you the question in a minute about if you got the opportunity to meet somebody, who would it be? But the point before that is you actually met Muhammad Ali, didn't you? And we've had people that have said to us before that would be the person they'd like to meet if they were given the chance. So as somebody who met Muhammad Ali, how did that come about?
I was going to say, how did that happen?
Yeah, I think I was very young at the time. I was 16, and my dad knew I was a big Muhammad Ali fan. And I think even previously he went to an auction, and a charity auction, and he brought back home a Muhammad Ali glove. So I always had an interest in Muhammad Ali, and my family knew that. My brother wanted to name me Muhammad Ali, but that was vetoed by my grandparents. I was just, I think I was in GCSE at the time. And then my dad was saying, "I've got one surprise for you. Do you know what it is?" I'm thinking, okay, what is it? And he says, he gave me like 3 sort of chances to guess. And then my last chance, he said, have you organised for me to meet Muhammad Ali? And he was like,
you guessed it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was that important to you that it was in your guesses.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so it was a charity event by his foundation. So my sister and I went to Old Trafford. I'm not a Manchester United fan, but if I'm going to see Muhammad Ali, that's fine. But
it's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it. So we went to his foundation dinner, managed to speak to him, but the thing is, he was already late in his stages of Parkinson's disease.
So
for me, it was a difficult experience, right? Because you want to see your hero in their prime, and you want to have a lengthy chat with them.
Quite bittersweet, yeah.
So it was a bittersweet experience. But I had an opportunity to at least speak to his wife and have a lengthy conversation with her. So that was there were a lot of boxers there, like Ricky Hatton.
So you got to see all those guys as well.
So that was interesting.
You're a big boxing fan then, as opposed to specifically just Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. I used to get angry when my dad wouldn't wake me up for the Mike Tyson fights.
Oh, really?
And he was like, "Well, they're going to be knocked out in 30 seconds." So,
I thought I'd let you sleep. I'm intrigued. You don't happen to remember what the first 2 were, do you?
I can't remember. I was so excited.
What are the guesses?
Yeah, do you remember that? I can imagine that. That's a pretty big. That's a pretty cool one at number 3. But Dad, you've bought me a plane.
Yeah, but I can't remember the first 2. But I know my brother also guessed as well, Muhammad Ali.
Wow. They might not have been quite as bonkers, though, mightn't they? They might have been that you sort of like, you bought me a new bike. Oh, no, maybe not. You've bought me a new... You haven't bought me, but... Oh, you have bought me.
I think he put so much emphasis on it that you knew it was going to be something very unusual.
Something big.
Yeah. So something life-changing, right?
Yeah. So, that's brilliant. And like you say, it is notwithstanding he was kind of an aging man and in poor health, it's still remarkable to meet a true legend.
Oh, amazing. I still remember seeing him. You won't remember Parkinson, but I remember watching him when he was always interviewed. He was just such a great raconteur, wasn't he? And a brilliant boxer.
Yeah. Well,
brilliant boxer.
I remember him saying about being the greatest, and he said, if I was a bin man, I'd have been the best bin man in the world. I'd have been quicker than everybody else, and I'd have straightened the bins up when I was finished. And he just had this outlook of like, whatever you do, just be the best at what you can do.
And I don't know, did he? I don't really know much about boxing, but did his sort of boxing style transform boxing? Was previously, because he was a heavyweight, wasn't he? Was he a heavyweight?
Yeah, he was heavyweight.
Before Ali did basically just two big blokes stand in a room and punch 9 whatsits out of each other, but Ali sort of introduced it, made it into a craft.
Yeah, I think he was very unorthodox in the sense his hands would be down. And in a heavyweight boxing match, you really want to keep your hands up. He was dancing around the ring. And I think he brought that entertainment to boxing. And he might have sounded arrogant at the time, but deep inside, there was a very humble, giving human being, which you saw, after his retirement, during, his career, he gave a lot back to a lot of people.
And I think in sport, it's nice to have characters. Fairly recently, Tyson Fury fought.
Yeah, he tried to do a bit of a Muhammad Ali on the ropes.
Usyk. And he was. Well, I think in the 9th round, I think he was on the ropes. I don't think it was necessarily play acting, was it? He was getting better. But I think having characters is important in business, in sport, whatever, because I think it gets attention.
I bet you Apollo Creed. I don't know if you've ever seen
the Rocky.
Whatever those Rocky films. I bet you they based Creed on.
Yeah, and
Ali. I bet you they did. I was just thinking about it, that he was a transformational character, Ali, wasn't it? I bet you they based Creed on that sort of bouncy.
I think there was an Oscar Awards, and Sylvester Stallone was handing it out, and then Muhammad Ali just came behind the stage and said, "You stole your storyline from me."
Right.
So I think there's some truth to that, Chris.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I say, when you look at Creed, you think, that is Ali, actually.
So back to our two questions.
Sorry, we digress.
Yeah, we did. It was a good one.
It was a worthwhile digress.
So we'll come to the person you want to meet in a second. But the first question is, if you could be a fly on the wall in a situation, where would you be and who'd be there?
I think, looking back on that experience, meeting Muhammad Ali wasn't probably the most happy moments, in the sense you see your hero suffering. So I would like to sort of go back to when he fought Sonny Liston in sort of 1964, when the odds were against him. Sonny Liston had been knocking people out. The odds were 8-1. I would have been, very privileged to be around him during that time, understanding his training camp, and how he kept that sort of aura of confidence when deep inside he was scared of this quote unquote ugly bear. That would be a sort of an amazing experience to see that training camp and see the media. I think about boxing, it's fun thing about it is the media attention beforehand, and
it really is a frenzy, isn't it?
So I would have liked to be there right in the heat of that moment, and then he became heavyweight champion. So amazing. And I don't know if this is going to be linked to what we've been talking about, but if you were given the opportunity to meet somebody, who would you like to meet given the opportunity? So for me, I think I would like to meet Malcolm X. So I think I've just finished his autobiography. I know he had sort of close links with Sam Cooke, Malcolm X, Jim Brown, the NFL player. But for me, Malcolm X, of course, he was born in a family where his dad was murdered by the KKK. His mother was taken away from him. He wasn't really fighting for civil rights. He was fighting for human rights. And I think from where he sort of started his sort of human rights movement and where he ended up, I think his views started to change. His views started to mature. And I think he reflected back and, he was first, I believe in separation, not segregation, separation. But I think later on in his life, he acknowledged that was the wrong thing and that people can be united. And one of my favorite quotes from Malcolm X is, when you replace we with I with we, even illness becomes wellness. So Malcolm X would be someone down, and his charisma.
Was he the fist at the Olympics? Was that Malcolm? was it Malcolm X? He was known for his "I'll put my arm in the air" with the fist, and was that when the black athletes, the American black athletes, did it when they were on the podium, and it went round the world as like And,
I don't know. Was that
I think that was. I think that they did the Malcolm X gesture for it, and the world was like, whoa, because that must have been about the 70s or something. I think that might have been the early 70s. It's a very iconic picture.
Yeah.
I think what's really powerful in that is someone that has the self-awareness to reflect on a situation and say, actually, what I thought wasn't necessarily right, and they're able to take a different position, because particularly in modern day society, there's very few people that tend to do that nowadays. People just get ingrained in their view and that's it. But to have the platform that he had, and then have the confidence really to be able to change his position on something is really powerful.
I think introspection is something that the world needs a lot more of. He had the ability to do that, and I admire him for that.
Yeah. Aly, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think it's really interesting. I think the group you're building is great. I think you have a nice philosophical outlook on life as well. And I think that's going to serve you and your business well as you go forward.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, and Chris. And really enjoy this, and hopefully we can have a round two.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thanks
really
very
good.
much, Aly.
Really
Cheers,
good.
man.
Look after yourself, Aly. Keep well. Cheers.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dentology, where we discuss the business of dentistry. If you like what you heard, please do subscribe where you found this episode. That would be amazing. And also follow us on Instagram.